Welcome to Connect to Joy. Your host, Carol DeChaine, is an intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and Marconic multidimensional energy practitioner. Her quest is to help you realize new possibilities, discover and release what holds you back, and enable you to manifest an inspired life filled with joy. Join us on this journey of transformation. Now, here's your host, Carol DeChaine.
Welcome, beautiful spirits. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm Carol DeChaine, and my passion in life is to help you find your joy, to release what holds you back, and assist you to quantum leap your journey of self-discovery. I'm an intuitive, certified in life and business coaching, and a Marconic multidimensional energy practitioner and teacher. So if you're ready to start creating that life you've only dreamed of, that you deserve, let's have some fun, and let's get started right now. Hello. Before we get started, let me say that this is the last show under the Living Your Limitless Life podcast title. The next incarnation of this show is called Connect to Joy. Now that's connect, the number 2, and the word joy. It's the name of my business, and it's what I want to help you do, to connect to your inner joy and still practically find your best life. All the old shows will still be found in the same place and on my same Buzzsprout homepage. So from January 2022 on. In the meantime, for this particular show, today, as we finish up the year, have you noticed anything that you regret? Something you did or didn't do that might be haunting you? You know, going around and around in your head. In order to start a new year and get a fresh start, letting go of what's stuck in your mind is a way of allowing yourself to have that fresh start. If you continue to go in circles over and over in your mind feeling guilty or regretting something, you'll always be dragging around that ball and chain everywhere you go, as they call it, that old baggage you'll have with you. Today I'm going to be going over a number of different things. What's the definition of regret, so we're on the same page? What types of things can you regret, so you can see if anything rings a bell? How it holds you back? We're going to go over 10 ways that you can release the regret, and then a guided meditation to help you let go. It won't let you go so you can start something new. The definition of regret, I'll start with Google. It says when you put that in, what pops up is feel sad, repentant, or disappointed over something that has happened or been done, especially a loss or missed opportunity. And dictionary.com says to feel sorrow or remorse for an act, fault, disappointment, etc., and to think of with a sense of loss. So basically, regret has to do with not being happy, to be sad or disappointed or worried or feel sorrow or remorse or maybe even guilt over something that you did, maybe you didn't do, a loss of an opportunity that you didn't take, a road not traveled. And Psychology Today talks about regret in one of their blogs. They say, and I'm going to quote this, over short time periods, people are more likely to regret actions taken and mistakes made, whereas over long time periods, they're more likely to regret actions not taken, such as missed opportunities for love or working too hard and not spending enough time with family. Now, question for you. Does that sound familiar or strike a chord just deep inside of you? If you aren't sure, let's look at the types of things you might regret and see if that really rings a bell with you. Because there are small things that may not bother us, and there are some things we may consider big that we really regret. But all of them have some sort of consequences. General, I'm going to do different categories. The general one would be being rude, nasty, unkind, maybe hurtful to someone. Even a quick moment can either haunt you or the other person. A missed opportunity that might have changed your life, or not following your dream, whatever that might be. Even if it was when you were a kid, you might still have that regret that you didn't follow it. So some categories, so you can think a little differently along a certain line. So how about job and career? Maybe you didn't go to college, or you chose the wrong one, and you didn't get what you wanted out of it. Maybe you chose the wrong major, so you didn't get where you wanted to go, and you didn't think it through. Maybe while you were in college, you partied too much, and you didn't study enough. So you didn't go for your grades and it impacted your entire life. Maybe in your job, you didn't speak up at some point when you saw something wasn't right, or you had a good idea and you just didn't say anything to the boss. Or maybe you let your boss browbeat you, just constantly put you down. Maybe they took advantage of you and they let others think that your ideas were theirs. Maybe you regret turning down a job possibility, or maybe not even applying for a job opportunity that you saw out there. Or maybe you took a job that you regret. Maybe you stayed too long at some sort of a job that really didn't feel like it got you anywhere. And perhaps you regret doing or saying something that got you fired. In the financial world, maybe you regret just not paying enough attention to what you spent your money on, not saving for retirement or a rainy day, and then getting there and being totally, screwed. Spending money on something big and then not using it, like a motorhome or classes that are like thousands of dollars. Maybe having a hobby that you spent a lot of money on, like golf or something, where you didn't really like it, and so all that money was wasted. Perhaps you regret trusting someone else with your money that you shouldn't have, like a financial advisor or a spouse or a friend, and they took advantage of you. There's also a category for health. So maybe you regret that you got a diagnosis of something that wasn't good for your health that could have been avoided. Maybe if you'd taken better care of yourself, because you regret ignoring your body, whether that means what you eat or how much you eat, an amount of sleep you get, movement or exercise, whatever that means, not taking care of yourself better is something many of us, as we get older, regret. And maybe even this falls into the category where you're not traveling. You've put it off because you want to do it when you have money and you're not working anymore, but your health then was bad. So you regret putting off that traveling opportunity. Now, there are a lot of things we might regret about relationships. And some of these are going to be about spousal and loving relationships, and other ones really apply to pretty much anybody. A lack of communication that can cause minor or major issues might be what we regret. That you didn't set up boundaries, so you let people walk all over you. Maybe you were the yes, I'll do it, and had no time for yourself. Or maybe you set up so many walls no one or hardly anyone could get close to you because you wouldn't let them get close enough. Maybe you said something harsh, or you were doing something specific that ended a relationship that you held dear, whether it was a friendship or a romantic interest or even a connection to your child, your parent, or someone else that mattered. So maybe you regret what you said or what you did. Or maybe, even more so, you might regret not saying something or doing something that you felt you should have, that would have shifted the relationship and maybe kept it going for the better, or stopped something that was negative from continuing to happen. Maybe you regret staying in a relationship too long, or saying no to someone that asked you out, or maybe even proposed to you. And maybe you regret ending a relationship that you wonder, what if? And according to research, when I was looking into this, women are so much more likely to feel regret over a romantic relationship issue than a man, because men just move on faster is what the thinking is. They get over it because they continue their life rather than wallowing, as some of us do, in what went wrong and, oh my God, I regret this and I regret that. After all that, let me give you the easy way to tell if regret is holding you back. If you ever think, what if, about anything, if you feel kind of haunted by your choices, look at each thing and see if you're harboring anything you regret at more than a superficial level. Because sometimes they are stuck in our mind and they go in circles. We don't always know the consequences of our actions, and actually sometimes we rarely do. Things may surprise us and go south when we weren't expecting it, or they might go well and we thought it was going to go bad. Sometimes our inactions may be what we regret, because we're thinking a different course of action, or maybe inaction, would have been a better choice. You just don't know when you don't know the result of what your actions are going to be. We can only do the best we can. Now, this next section is going to be about holding on to regret and how it can damage your life or hold you back from moving forward. So how can it damage your life if you don't let it go? Well, you might be afraid of trying that new relationship or taking a step towards something new or different due to past failures. You might feel sad or shame about decisions that you've made, or embarrassed for that matter. the lack of forward movement or change in your life might have you feeling like you wasted your life. At some point in my life, I felt like I'd wasted my life. And people went, "What? Just because you aren't married at this point? That's just ridiculous." And I went, "Okay, well, let me think about that again." Because you really do feel like if you're not moving forward or changing or doing something, you might get to that point like I did. Am I wasting my life? Was the question I kept asking myself. You may stay stuck trying to figure out how to undo the past. And most of the time, you can't undo what's past. You might be able to shift the future, but the past is over. Regret can actually cause chronic stress, and Lord knows what happens with that, because it can have all sorts of symptoms to your body. I know my hair started falling out when I was stressed out. So believe me, if regret can do that as well, that's one thing to take off my list, because I like my hair. I don't want to lose it. But regret, it can cause you to stay trapped in unhappiness. And it can damage your self-confidence and self-esteem, because you're questioning yourself over and over again. You may have something you regret that gets trapped in your mind, so you feel like you're going round and round, and that can lead to depression and damage to both your mind and your body. And this last part is again from Psychology Today. So, what do you think? Are you ready to release anything that you're regretting about your life? Now, before we get into the meditation, let's go over those 10 ways I promised that you can do that. So number 1 is that you can fix what you can and then let go of the rest. So look at what happened and what you actually regret. Is there something you can do that will change the outcome of what happened? That thing that you regret? Can you do something now and then take those steps? Don't just think, "Oh yeah, I could," and then not step forward. Take the steps. Think about what you can do. Maybe you can go back and adjust something, talk to somebody, shift something, a decision can be shifted. I don't know what the thing is that you regret. So maybe that's an option for you. The second thing you can do is learn your lesson and move forward. Now, this actually works in any situation, about anything that is what you think is a bad choice. There are no bad choices. They're just things you can learn and move forward from. So if you can learn your lesson, can you do something better next time? What can you learn from it? So look back at it and say, if I had chosen this instead of that, maybe I jumped in too soon. I needed to think about my choice. Maybe I said something in the heat of the moment. Maybe I don't want to do that. Because maybe if I look back, every single time I regret something, that's what I did. Look for a pattern when you look for your lessons, because that will help you immensely to find out what they are. The third thing you can do is to look at who is actually to blame for the situation, because it may not be only you. So that way you can let go of at least a portion of the blame. If you look at it and you go, I did 90% of this, but 10% was somebody else, and they spoke up and they said something that didn't help the situation. Okay, so that isn't on me. This part's on me, and this is what I need to look at and let go. And number 4 is, as long as your mind is circling on this, really look at the information you had at the time. Maybe you didn't have enough knowledge about the subject to be able to make a really positive, uplifting decision. Maybe you had a really short time frame that you had to respond in, or you had an immediate response you had to do, and maybe that was part of the problem. How were you feeling before it happened? Maybe you were in a bad place. Maybe you said something or didn't say something because of where you were at the time. And normally you're not in that particular feeling place. So understanding this part may show you that maybe you're blaming yourself too much. Maybe there's things in there that you don't need to take such a large amount of regret for, because it wasn't something that you had any control over. Now, you may regret it happened anyway, but at least you won't blame yourself at that point. It's kind of a 2-step thing. The 5th thing is to take responsibility for what you did do or say, or what you didn't do or say when you feel it should have been, so you can make peace with it. Now, AA is wonderful. They're a group that relies on this. When you look at their steps that they take to go through, this is one of the things they do. You take responsibility and you apologize to people, and you go up and you talk to people, connect with people if you can. And I'm not an expert in the 12-step process, but I know some people that are in it and they've told me about it. But I need to say that, yes, if you can take responsibility for what you did do or say or didn't do or say when maybe you think you should have, you'll find much more peace and can move forward better. And the regret kind of starts falling away. And then the sixth thing is to look at the issue from a third-party perspective. Maybe it's not as bad as you think it was. What if a loved one said something and they said, I really regret this? Listen to them with a third-party perspective, loving or caring about that person, and then what would you say to them? Maybe you can turn around and say that to yourself, because it's hard to forgive ourselves sometimes because we just go off and we're so hard on ourselves, and other times it's okay. We figure it out and it works okay for us. So look at it from a third-party perspective. This next one, I know Heart Math talks about freeze frame, and other people talk about reframing a moment. So if you can look at the incident, the episode, whatever you want to call it, and look at it and reframe it into something more positive. Picture it the way you feel you should have experienced the moment. What things you should have said. Do that first while you're there, and then think about the circumstances and what might have happened if you'd done that. But reframe it. Reframe it to, okay, this is what happened, but I can adjust it. I can reframe it so I feel better about what happened. The eighth thing, of course, is to work with forgiveness. If you blame yourself and regret what happened or didn't happen, self-blame can be released. You need to work with forgiveness. I have a whole show on that, so please go back and listen to that if you need to, because self-forgiveness is so important. It's easier sometimes to blame yourself than someone else, depending on your personality. Some people are always stuck on their victim mentality where it's always, poor me, they did it to me. But other people are always taking responsibility for everything, even when it isn't their responsibility. It doesn't mean that you still can't regret what happened. But if you release yourself and forgive yourself, then the regret won't be as heavy on you. Number 9 is to work with a life coach, but also a therapist if the regret becomes depression, because it can really pull and drag you down, and you don't want to get stuck there, because that is not good for your mind or your body or obviously your emotions. And the 10th thing to do is find a good teacher or tools that you can use to release the regret, because there are so many different people out there. And one of the great things you can do is to do a guided meditation, which we're going to be doing now, because that way you can connect to your source and release the past in a way that makes it so much easier for you. So now we're going to do a meditation. Hopefully you can get comfy wherever you are. And if you can't, and if it's not possible to close your eyes right now, go ahead and relax and stay fully present where you need to for whatever you're doing, like driving or something. But also be aware and listen, because you can come back later, obviously, and do the meditation. But perhaps even being aware of your surroundings but listening will spark something for you. For those of us who can, go ahead and close your eyes. Wiggle into your chair if you need to get your body into a comfortable place. And then simply breathe. Become aware of your breathing. I don't want you to count them or hold them, because that only creates more tension. But watch yourself breathe and allow yourself to feel as though you have that laughing gas, if you've ever had it, that the dentist has. And when that happens, everything just sort of starts releasing. All those worries and fears, they just start melting away. Connect to your source as much as you can while you're doing any meditation. Take a moment if you want to ground. That's for you to decide. Not everyone feels comfortable grounding. But connect to your source, whether inner or feeling like you're connecting higher, or whatever it is that works for you. You're perfectly safe while you're here, so anything you see and anything that you experience will be a totally safe place to do it in. And we ask for clarity. Clarity for any lessons that you're supposed to learn from this, and clarity of heart and mind and spirit. Now, as you're breathing, see an elevator opening in front of you. It's like the Wonka elevator. If you've seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the elevator can go in any direction, up, down, sideways, and out through the roof, flying anywhere you want it to. So as you get in, push the button that says regret and allow it to take you up, up, and then backwards in time to that time in your life that you regret something that happened that seems to be making a difference, something that's stuck in your mind. And as you become aware and watch what's happening, feel as though you're looking at it from a third-party perspective. See it clearly, and then look around and see if anything else is going on, if others are participating in this particular thing that maybe you didn't realize. Things that were said or not said that had nothing to do with you, but maybe they were also happening at the same time. Feel what was happening, but feel safe while you're feeling it. Allow that incident or that episode to be watched from that third-party perspective so you don't get so upset with it. And then see a big bubble surrounding that episode, infusing that bubble with love, infusing it with rightness when it comes to, this is what's best for me, that sort of rightness. And see, as you're pumping in that love into that whole episode, start being aware of the bigger picture, of the life lesson that you're learning right now in this lifetime from that particular episode. Maybe you're supposed to learn that you deserve better. Or maybe you're supposed to learn, if it's a relationship that you didn't leave, that not only do you deserve better, but you don't have to stay in it in the first place very long. Or maybe you learn that you don't even have to go out with them the first time. If it feels funky, you need to trust yourself. Or maybe it's just that you need to trust yourself with whatever it is that you're not saying or doing, or something you're saying or doing. As you see that bigger picture and that life lesson, if you're not aware of it, ask what you are supposed to learn from it. Hear it clearly. Know it in your heart. And then we're going to take that lesson back with you. So if you don't hear it, feel it in your being. Feel that knowingness of whatever that lesson was supposed to be, so that you don't have to repeat it or even do something similar to it. Remember everything that you see and everything that you feel. And now I want you to check in with yourself. When you're looking at that episode, do you feel any regret that may still be there? Is there anything left? And now I want you, instead of being a third party, to allow whatever feeling is left about this episode to expand and get bigger. And while that feeling is getting bigger, when it gets as big as it can get, and that feeling, if it's overwhelming, you know you're safe. And then I want you to pour love on it. Pour love over this feeling that you have. And then pour in the healing purple light this time, going through every groove, every nook and cranny, so that it heals every bit of this regret, of this, I should have done this, if only I'd done that. Know that this was for your highest good, that you're learning what you need to learn, and you can go out and do something entirely different or something similar to make a change if that's what you want. But while you're pouring this love in and pouring this healing purple light into your being, add peace or joy, or both of them, as well as the love. Let it wash away whatever the regret is, whatever coulda, shoulda, woulda been that you didn't do, or that you should have done. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Let all of that go. Let it release. Let that regret wash away. And take a breath and allow it to work through your entire being. If you know what that lesson is, remember it now. Allow it to go through your cells so that the next time something comes up, you know how you want to respond. This new growth, that you have. And now you can go ahead and get back into that Wonka elevator and push the button that says home. And as you're breathing and watching everything whoosh past you, all the time that changes, that's movement, know that you can be at peace, knowing that the lesson that you learned, if it's not conscious right now, will become conscious. Your subconscious mind will say, here you go, on a little platter, so that you know this is what you can learn from that particular regretful situation. So now, as you're coming back into the room, you can wiggle your fingers and your toes and breathe a little more, knowing that that lesson will move through you and allow it to change your life, allowing yourself to be at peace and filled with joy and love. Now you can open your eyes, and as you breathe, become aware of what that circumstance was, and I want you to ask yourself, how am I doing? So think of that episode right now. You should feel a little better, or maybe a lot better, and if you don't, or if there's a lot more to work out, you can go back into this meditation, or you can look at the 10 ways to release and continue on your journey to say goodbye to regret with those 10 things. Because regret, it's just a sign that we feel we could have done better or made a different choice in our estimation, and it would have had an outcome we preferred, we think, although of course we don't really know. Life is truly wonderful because we can learn. We can grab a second chance and try again. And sometimes what we regret, we've lost forever. But if you let go of what you regret, so many times something even better will show up that never would have happened if we hadn't been through what we consider bad times. So let's love ourselves enough to let go of regret and take that fresh start if you need to. Allow new, wonderful possibilities in your life. Until next week, be courageous and reach higher. Your guidance will be there for you when you need it. Just listen. And remember that transformation is a journey and not an end destination. So be kind to yourself. Just take one step at a time, get the help you need, and then connect to your joy.
Thank you for listening to Connect to Joy. If you love the show, make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast. And subscribe so you never miss an episode. Contact the host, Carol DeChaine, with questions and comments, ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to become a guest. And remember, transformation is a journey and not an end destination. So be kind to yourself, because you are already enough to have the joyful, limitless life that you desire.